Well, shooting shit would be an understatement for this. Fuck it, let's get this rant started. So, this is going to be, as you probably guessed from the title, it's about the North Dakota Access Pipeline. And mainly about the violence, the police violence, which is a phenomena that has been on the rise. And this makes me wonder, how long can people claim that Black Lives Matter are extremists, which they're not. In fact, my only issue with them is that in many ways they are they're not doing enough, I feel, to actually stop police violence. We have been seeing it, and I think that this really comes from the fact that now we can record it, and even when we record it, the police officers are still able to get away with it. The truth is, police violence has been happening against protesters since the beginning of time, for fuck's sake, because whenever people have power, they fucking use it. And that is the absolute truth. If someone has power, they use it. If someone has billions of dollars, they will use it as a force over the people with less money. If you give a guy like Donald Trump power, he will use it to absolutely fuck over the working class, the weaker people, because it preserves his own power. And we are seeing this with the police. They were able to get by on excuses before, the fact that they weren't getting recorded. Now, because everyone can pull out their phone and record, you can see that police are overstepping their fucking boundaries. Look at Eric Garner. The guy was selling loose cigarettes. Loose fucking cigarettes. Yes, that's a crime. Technically. Of course, I don't think cigarettes should be going out to, children or anything. I don't know the details of who he was selling it to. But loose cigarettes. I don't see how that equates to the fucking death penalty. Which, he got a makeshift version of the death penalty. He didn't go to a trial and was given the death penalty, which is already horrendous. But he got the death penalty because some police officer decided, I'm going to put you in a chokehold for very lightly resisting my arrest. Wasn't like the guy was throwing people around, for one. And do you know who got in trouble? The person who fucking recorded it. The person who caught the criminal act is the one who's getting charged. Does that sound like justice? Didn't think so. Recently, I forget the names of the people, but there was a black man who was trying to help get an autistic kid out of the street. Police, and he was laying down and had his hands up when police officers came by. They shot him anyway. Doesn't that sound like overstepping their fucking boundaries? Well, if it doesn't, then you're a fucking racist, or you're an absolute fucking imbecile. And then their defense was, we weren't aiming for him, we were aiming for the autistic kid. You know what? Just casually throw in some fucking ableism. Yeah. You know what? There's nothing wrong with, yeah, we've already done the racist shit, now let's throw in ableism. Fuck the autistic people. What? Ugh. And then people wonder why I'm afraid what could possibly happen to me in Trump's America. I mean, I'm ready to fight if I am in danger. But I acknowledge that I am in danger. I am in danger in many ways. I have bipolar disorder, which means that I will have suicidal bouts almost, yeah, it's almost 100% certain that I will have one within the next 4 years. And what really helped me was getting therapy. If he repeals Obamacare, or just the little bit, I already was unable to afford therapy when I turned 18. But if Obamacare is completely gutted, they get rid of everything. Like, it's not a revisal, but they just completely get rid of everything. You know, throw all the good shit out the window. I could easily find myself unable to cope. I could find myself gun in my mouth one day. It's quite possible. And I'm going to try and do what I can to prevent that. But if I keep getting cut down constantly, you know, this Republican mantra of pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, I would if you stopped fucking slicing them. Or you gave me some fucking bootstraps in the first place. It's fucking ridiculous. But off of that unrelated tangent, the fact that police will use the fact that there was an autistic kid like it's any fucking better. Yeah. You know what? We said the racist shit might as well be ableist too, because, you know, fuck people who are different. You know, people like Bering do it all the time, calling people faggots, cucks. Well, I'm not sure whether he's used that one or not. Spastic, which is basically another way of calling someone retarded. Throwing these things around. Sargon with his whole feminists for autism thing. No, there's no problem. It's just some people being assholes on the internet. Except these assholes come from somewhere. These assholes come from the real world. They don't have as big of an effect in the real world as they do on the internet, because the internet is a fucking toxic stew of anti-feminist and anti-left waste. I mean, the hostility on the internet and the unnecessary hatred is a reflection of the worst aspects of our society. And we are starting to see that from the police. We are starting to see it creep into the real world. And since we've started recording police, we've seen them get violent. Let's end at the North Dakota Access Pipeline. We saw people getting shot with rubber bullets and sprayed down with water hoses in 28 degree Fahrenheit weather, which that's about like 2.5 degrees, maybe about like 2.3 or 2.4 degrees below zero in Celsius. Yeah, I mean, bloody hell. But they're shooting people with rubber bullets, spraying people down with hoses. This is something we've seen at protests before. Martin Luther King protests, for example, there were plenty of times where the police sprayed down the men with water hoses, attacked the men. And quite honestly, at this point, I'm telling people that they should probably defend themselves. If you're at the North Dakota Access Pipeline and you don't have a fucking gun, you are a moron. Because those police are going to shoot at you. And do you know what you need to do? Shoot back. You need to defend yourself. You need to protect yourself. And the police cannot be given free rein to do whatever the fuck they want. This is absolutely an overstep of boundaries. Our government constantly oversteps in other countries, not just its own. It started doing... Now our country is doing the same shit to us that it's been doing to every other country. Iraq, Iran. We overthrew a democratic government in Iran and placed in an autocrat. And that autocrat was later overthrown by a theocrat. I mean, the US has been fucking over the world forever. And other imperial powers, Britain. I mean, British... There used to be British colonies almost everywhere in the fucking world. They used to own about a quarter of all land on Earth. That's fucking crazy. That is absolutely imperialistic. And then, the same people who are praising Castro's death are the same people who are in favor of going into the Iraq War. The same people who voted for a man who promised to target, torture, and kill the families of ISIS. Not only being a big violation of the Geneva Convention, which is an example of a weak-ass piece of paper that doesn't actually protect anything, but it is a violation of international law, and it's also a violation of human rights, at least from the definition of human rights that I would give, which is that you have the right to not be murdered. You have the right to not be tortured, and you also have the right to not be guilty simply by association. I mean, if my cousin goes and murders someone, does that make me a murderer? Even if I'm the one who turns him in and says, yeah, he's a murderer. I don't want him out on the streets. Does that make me a murderer automatically? Should I be tortured? Should I be jailed by proxy if he ends up going on the run? You know, that's how fucking stupid it sounds to target the families of ISIS. Not to mention, we've already been targeting the families of people when we go on carpet bombing campaigns in Syria. And while a lot of people, when it comes to Trump and Russia, while there are some people who say he's preventing World War III, and I do think that being diplomatic with Russia is definitely a better idea than going and trying to start a war with them, which was Hillary's whole no-fly zone thing. So, I mean, one positive outcome of the Trump presidency is we might not go into World War III. Let's just cross our fingers and fucking hope. Because, you know, but America might be in the pocket of Putin for a while. Trump will get played like a fiddle by Putin. And I apologize, this is really just a general rant. I mean, the fact that all this is happening shows that we cannot trust the government. We cannot trust the police. They are not on our side. They clearly are not on our fucking side. And it's going to build up slowly over time. And are you going to be the frog that boils in the pot? Or are you going to jump out with me before it gets too hot to survive? Before it boils. This has been a rant brought to you funded by George Soros, according to Alex Jones. Because every leftist is funded by George Soros. And the globalist! And the fluoride in the water is turning the frogs gay. Alright, now that I've gotten that, the Alex Jones jokes out of my system, I would like you all to, well, I mean, after the bleak subject matter, it would be hard for you to have a wonderful day, but I'd like you to rest and think on that and try not to think so badly about it that it ruins your day, but do remind yourself that this isn't fucking normal and we are in for hard times.